Hello there. Yesterday I played Lichess4545 Team League game. This time, day before I played Lone Wolf, so I'm playing both tournaments now at the same time. So I want to show you this game. It was a very long game. It lasted for about 2.5 hours, maybe a little less. And it's very interesting game and a very interesting game as well. And it's also quite complicated, so I'm not sure that I will be able to understand every feature of the position, of the emerging positions here. So let me just start with the game. So I opened with e4, as I usually do, and my opponent, who is of similar rating than myself, played c5. So he went for Sicilian, I played c3, so Alapin variation, and he played d5. And now if you have been watching my channel, my previous games, you see that I meet this variation very often. I almost always play this Alapin c3 against Sicilian, and this d5 move is considered to be most principled response and the best response for Alapin. And I think that my opponent was prepared here. He probably looked at my games before, and he knew that I play Alapin, and he decided to go for this variation because this is the most difficult variation to play as white. But here, on his surprise, I didn't play my usual stuff. So e takes d5, queen takes. Then I usually go here with the knight, with plan to bring my pieces like this. So this was my usual plan. But now I made something different. I played d3. So I wanted to change something in my openings a little bit, to try something else, and also to put him off guard, because I thought that he was prepared for me. So I played this d3 move, and he thought a lot after this move. I mean, a lot, given that this is opening. You can see he thought maybe 2 minutes to respond to this, and you can see that this is something like reversed Philidor, let's say like this, and this offers him a chance to go to the endgame immediately, or at least queenless middle game. So if he takes the pawn, I take, and we can exchange queens, and we then play the middle game. So this is what black can decide to do if he wants, and he decided to do exactly that. So he took d takes c4, d takes c4, queen takes d1, king takes d1. So we are now in the, well, some would say endgame, some would say queenless middle game. Knight to c3. So it looks like normal developing move, but in fact it's not such a good move. First of all, because you can see that this pawn is dominating this knight. So this pawn is covering these two squares, and this knight doesn't have many good squares to go, and I can always put my bishop here and pin this knight. So the trick in these positions is that natural developing moves, so knights here and here, usually are not very good, because I can also play f3, and then both of his knights are dominated by both of my pawns. So you have to know how to play these positions. So knight to c3, and now I have several choices how to continue my development. I don't want to commit my knight to f3 yet, because maybe I would like to play pawn to f3 for these reasons, maybe to dominate this knight, maybe just to enforce this pawn, and yeah, there are some other reasons. So I was thinking about this knight. This knight will probably go in the game through d2, or maybe even like this maneuver. Also this knight after f3 could make this maneuver. So there are plenty of options. I decided to play a bishop e3, so this is a developing move with a tempo, and also I have developed my bishop, so I can bring my knight back if I want to, and this comes with a tempo, so it's a nice move. b6, okay, defending the pawn, and now bishop to b5, so I'm developing another bishop, and I'm now pinning the knight. In fact, this knight is unprotected, so this is again developing with a threat. So you can see that these two moves are, both of these moves are developing with threat. So I like moves which develop with threats. Bishop to b7. Okay, now I'm not sure. Maybe I would even prefer bishop to d7 here, because it unpins the knight. I'm not sure about bishop b7. Is this good idea for him? Because now I can just play. After I play f3, this bishop is just looking at my pawn chain, and this knight is still pinned. So maybe I would prefer this. but okay, don't take my word for it. Bishop to b7. Okay, now I still have to solve my developing problems. Well, after this bishop is developed, I don't see any reason why shouldn't I develop just my knight to d2. And this knight is nice here because he'll probably castle long, and then this knight protects my king from check and so on. But I think it's just a normal developing move. He played g6. Now he wants to bring his bishop out. I thought that he wants to play bishop g6. And again, I don't see much future for this bishop since they are these pawns. So maybe you watched one long game in which my opponent fianchetto both of his bishops, and I have pawns like this. So his one bishop was looking at these pawns, and his other bishop was looking at this. So both bishops were neutralized. So I thought that probably this would happen here as well. So I played f3 here. So I was intending to play f3 before. I wanted to solidify this pawn, and this knight can come out here or here, maybe here, here. It has many prospects. And now he surprised me by playing bishop to h6. So he wants to exchange this dark square bishop. He probably thinks that this is my bad bishop. This is my good bishop, sorry, because my pawns are on the light squares. So he wants to exchange this. I didn't expect this, and I still don't understand that this how black benefits from this exchange. I mean, yes, this bishop is okay, I guess nice bishop, although this bishop is looks at this pawn chain. So in fact, I prefer light square bishop here. I mean, light square bishop has so many squares. So I'm not sure that this is a good thing for black. Anyway, I exchanged because, well, after the exchange, his knight here is just out of the play. I mean, I control both of his squares, so this knight cannot move forward. So this knight can move only backward, maybe to come in the game. So this is why I decided to exchange, because now this knight is terrible. And now I played a move which was the result of my tunnel vision. They call it like that. So when you don't see something obvious. And I played g4 here, thinking that his next move will probably be f5. And this f5 will challenge my center, and will also allow his knight to come to the game, and so on. So I didn't like this f5 move. So I played g4, thinking that now I'm binding him, and now that he cannot play f5. And this is tunnel vision, so this is like a blunder, because of course he can play f5, and this is the best move because he has the knight covering the square. So yeah, I played g4 was not a good move, and for that reason it will be much better to just continue normal development, maybe knight to h3 or something like this, because this knight cannot go anywhere, and if he plays f5, I just take the pawn and just continue playing the game. So g4 was a bad move, and f5 was the best move for him, but he didn't do this move. He played long castle, and now you can see that I can just very easily chase his knight back to the original square. So I played g5. This knight doesn't have any squares. Knight has to go back. So you can see that this knight is completely undeveloped. This knight is dominated by my pawn. His rooks are now not coordinating, so he's undeveloping his pieces. Okay, again, now I have the option to develop my knight on some reasonable square, but I decided to play king to e2. Engine doesn't like this move very much, but I think this move is okay, because I'm also seeing that this pawn could be a weakness. So now this knight is no longer pinned. So if he moves this knight somehow, then he's eyeing this pawn, and also this rook with x-ray. So I thought that maybe overprotecting this pawn would be a good idea, and also I am developing my king, and also I am unpinning my knight. So several things. And by the way, in this kind of endgames, Philidor endgames, the main question is where does the king want to go? Does he want to go to king side or the queen side? So then the king should go to one of these sides, and to decide in which side to go is is important skill in playing this endgame. So this is also the reason why I delayed. I could have played knight to c, sorry, king to c2 in earlier moment, but I deliberately delayed this decision to see how the game will unfold. And now I was thinking that it's good that I didn't play king to c2, because now I see that king could be more useful here on the king side and protecting these pawns. Maybe I was talking queen side, I thought king side, but okay, you understand what I mean. This is why the arrows are for. Okay, so I played king to e2, and I thought that, well, my king is okay here. He now played h6, so now he's challenging my pawn, and he also wants to activate his rook, I guess. I played knight to h3, so the only, I mean not the only, but a reasonable way to protect the pawn, and at the same time develop my piece. He took the pawn, h takes g5, knight takes g5, and now you can see that I have this weakness. He managed to create the weakness on h2, so if I ever move my rook somewhere, this is hanging, and this is hanging with check. So this is something I allowed, and maybe I shouldn't have allowed. But okay. Now, again, he has a problem. This knight is undeveloped. He has to do something about this, so he plays knight to h6, trying to get his knight in the play. And, well, now I'm thinking about my pieces, about moving forward, about taking some kind of initiative, grabbing space, and so on. So my knight here is okay, my bishop here is okay, this knight is a little backward, so I played knight to c4, just bringing my piece in front. And the engine liked this plan, this approach, so I think this is fine. And then, now I was, well, he wants to do something about my knight here, so I was expecting that he will play f6 maybe, and then I could jump to e6 and have my strong knight here threatening his rook, maybe threatening to go to f7 or g7 or something like this. So this is how I thought the game would continue, but he played f5. So he's giving me these two squares and this square. So I think this is a very, very bad move, because okay, my knight is eyeing e5 square, and my knight is on g5. So if he played f6, he would take these two squares. Okay, I can jump to e6, but this knight doesn't have any forward. So this knight would have to be remaneuvered, I don't know how. But by playing f5, he just gave me these squares. And these are very, very strong squares for my knight. So I devised the plan. You can see that here I have, yeah, this, I forgot to mention, he had to play knight to h6 because it was the only way to stop me for forking his rooks. So this knight h6 is not just a developing move, but also he's guarding f7. Okay, so after f5, I thought that it would be nice to come to f7 and fork his rooks. But in order to do so, I need another piece covering this. So I was thinking maybe knight to e5, and now I will cover this square. I will have it twice. But the problem is that this knight is covering e5, so I want to take this knight first and then jump here, hitting his bishop and also hitting this square. So this is how the game went. I took the knight, he took the bishop, and now knight e5. And now I'm threatening to capture bishop, and I'm also threatening to come to f7 and win the exchange. And the only move which he can play, and it took him a while to find this move, he thought about 3 minutes, and now rook to e8 is, well, is covering this square. Okay. And now I was thinking what next. Well, my knights are very close to his king. I can, this e6 square is available. So I couldn't find some concrete plan here, and I played rook a to d1, wanting to dominate this file. So I was thinking, if I dominate this file, I have two knights which are very close, and his king is in the vicinity. So maybe I could do something. He decided to trade the rooks, so I took the rook back, and now he played knight to g8. And I didn't understand this move at first. You can see this again, backward move. Now all his pieces are on the back rank, and once I come here, everything will be attacked. But I realized later that his idea was in fact to remaneuver his knight to f6 and thus protecting the bishop. I didn't see this maneuver, but I think this is actually a good idea, although it does look very ugly. So playing just knight to g6, it's not what you would like to play in the normal circumstances. Okay, so I played knight to e6 here. So I wanted to give a check here, and I wanted to somehow penetrate his position. But I overlooked his counterplay. Of course, he has this move, bishop takes h2, and I did think about this move. So, for example, if he took bishop take h2, I can just move my queen up, and now if my king up, and now he would continue, for example, to grab the pawns, then I have check, and this bishop falls. So he'll just lose the piece. What I didn't see is that after rook takes h2, king h3, he has this, like I said, knight f6 move, and now this piece is protected, and well, I have some problems to solve here. So I didn't see all of his maneuvers, his defensive possibilities here, and this brought me in somewhat unpleasant position. So okay, here he didn't take the pawn with the check, but he played instead a knight f6 first. So he's now solidifying his position. And now again I was thinking what to do, and I decided to let him take the pawn if he wants, and I played king to e3. So my idea was, if he takes the pawn, then maybe I can try to kick this knight away by pushing this pawn and then winning the bishop. This was the plan. You will see later how it went. So he decided now to break the tension, to take my pawn. So f takes e pawn. I took the pawn back, and now again I was thinking about these combinations, and he played rook to h4. Now he wants to win my pawn. Okay, I can defend this pawn by playing knight to g5, but I played first in between move, so I played rook to d8 check. He has to move his king to b7, and now I played knight to g5, covering this pawn. Okay, and now he decided to take my pawn on h2. So rook takes h2, and now I was really, how should I say, I was out of ideas here, because suddenly I am not in such a good position. I don't know how to proceed. It looks, this looks very intimidating. This knight looks very intimidating, but in fact, as I thought more and more about this position, I couldn't find any way to take the advantage. So although this looks like I should be better, I should be winning, because my knights are very active on his side on the board. My rook is active on his side on the board. The rook has penetrated his position. His pieces are very backward. I mean, the only active piece is this rook. So I thought I should be better, but as I looked more and more into this position, I realized that I'm not better. So at one moment I just lost the will to play. I was completely like, I don't understand anything. I don't know what's going on here. This game is very, very strange, and I don't understand anything. And I just felt a little bit frustrated at this position. So I saw one variation, which is very unclear, but this is the only thing I saw. So I played this, and this was knight e to f3, and now threatening his rook. And the idea is, if he takes the pawn, then I can play this e5 move. Let's say that he plays, I thought that he would play maybe check here, but in that case I'm just, let's say he plays check, I play something like this, he goes back, and then I can take his bishop, and he takes my pawn. Yeah, I can even take this pawn then. I'm not sure that I saw this far. But I saw something like this, or maybe he could play he could try maybe playing this, I don't know, or go here. It doesn't matter. But the idea was that eventually I take this bishop and he takes my pawn. So he has three pawns for my bishop. But in fact, yeah, this would lose on the spot. So okay, I didn't calculate this very well. In fact, I calculated only this variation. And I thought, okay, now he can go somewhere. Maybe here, and then I take, he takes. Okay, it's unclear. I mean, well, now when I can take this pawn, maybe even I'm better now. He can go like, I don't know, here maybe to activate. Okay, I am a piece up, and he has 2 pawns for a piece. Yeah, I didn't see this that far. I saw that he will have either 2 or 3 pawns for my piece, for the piece, and in this kind of end game, it will probably end up in a draw, because there are two. I have two little pawns to be able to do something. So I have only 2 pawns which are disconnected. If he wins one of my pawns, I will probably have to sacrifice my piece for his 2 or 3 pawns, and it will end up in draw. So this is what I saw here. So I played knight e to f3 because this is the only thing I saw. And I was, like I said, I was frustrating because I thought that there must be something better here. I must be winning here. But in fact, I'm not. And even the engine infers that I'm not winning here. In fact, I think even black is better. So, knight e to f3. And now he didn't go for this variation. He decides to retreat. So rook to h8. And now I think this was not a good move from his part. And now I gained some enthusiasm back, and I got a will to play the game, because now I thought, okay, now I have some ideas. Now I can push the pawn. I can bring my knights closer, and all his pieces are tied back. His rook is now passive. Now all of 3 of his pieces will be passive. All my 3 pieces will be active, and I have to have something concrete here. And this is what happened. So I played e5. He has to run back with his knight, so he played knight to h5. And now there are several ways to continue. I think the computer suggests knight to e6, just bringing piece closer. But I decided to play e6 here. A little bit sharp, a little riskier. The idea behind this move is that, first of all, I have this square to come. And also this is a clearing move. So I want to move these pawns to be able to jump with my knight on e5. So I was thinking that once I jump with my knight on e5, I will have a stronghold on f7. And the engine sees the move here for black, knight to g7, and now black is even better according to the engine. But this is very difficult to understand why. Okay, he's attacking my pawn, but this pawn is defended. I mean, I can just play here. It's not easy to see why. But okay, I play e6. He played king to... He now wants to activate his king. He played king to c7, attacking my rook. But of course I don't need to move my rook, because I can just play knight to f7 here. And now you can see if he cannot take my knight, because his bishop is pinned. This is the problem. So he wanted to get out of this position by playing rook to g8. The idea is he can take my knight, and then he's simultaneously defending the rook. And this idea doesn't work for one reason, because there is one move which I have, which is winning move, and which he didn't see, and this is why I won the game. So this move will come very shortly. So I played knight 3 to e5. Again, computer says that if black plays here knight to g7, he's okay for some reason. But okay, I like this move because now I'm covering this. This knight. Okay, and now he probably thought that if he takes the knight, I can take I cannot take the bishop because, okay, let's just play this. If he takes the knight, I cannot take the bishop because he'll take my rook. So I would have to take the rook, and he'll have to take the bishop. He'll have to take the rook back with the bishop, and he'll be okay. I guess this is what he was thinking. So this is why he played rook takes f7. Okay. So this is the moment in which you can pause the video and try to find the winning move for white. Okay, so I hope you did pause the video and you did find the move. So I don't have to take the rook because I can just give the check. And I saw this move, by the way, this rook d7, I saw this here. So I saw this before I played the knight. Sorry. Before I play this knight, I saw that if he takes, I can check. This was important to see two moves before. Okay. And now, so the winning move is rook to d7 check. And now I'm completely winning. Now this is just a technical win. So after the check, he has to move away, king c8, and now I can take with my pawn. And now suddenly my pawn is close to promotion. Because this rook is no longer there, so he cannot capture this rook. So he has to play a rook to f8 to stop me from promoting, and I can just now take this pawn. So rook takes c7. And now here comes rook e8 check, and it's a win. But well, he has one more defensive resource which I didn't see before. I mean, when I was calculating this three moves or 4 moves before, I didn't see this resource. But okay, it doesn't change much. So this is knight f6, and now he's covering this very important e8 square, and I cannot check. So instead of if he didn't have this resource, so if he played anything else, it would just be check. I mean, he has to take, and I promote, and this is game over. So after he played knight to f6, I was like, oh, I was so hoping that this game will be won very quickly, and I realized that it will not be. I mean, I am better, I am winning, but I have to try a little bit harder now. Okay, so I was thinking about other ways to win, and I was thinking that I should probably now just play the endgame, bring my king up. So I was thinking that maybe I should try to bring my king up, grab this pawn, and then promote with the help of the king. But then I realized that if I play, for example, king to f4, he has this fork, and he's just winning. And only then I realized that even if I don't move the king, he has this fork. So I almost missed this fork. It was a very, very close call. Because then I was thinking about, well, why couldn't I just take the pawn? And then I realized, oh, but then he can just fork me. So I was thinking of knight takes g6, but I don't know why I missed this move. I think that I was afraid of this fork. Yeah, this is probably one another second tunnel vision moment, because I don't see if I take knight on g7. I mean, knight takes g6, what can he do? I mean, okay, he can fork me. I should still be winning. Okay, I probably wasn't sure about this endgame. I guess I did briefly consider knight to g6, but now I don't remember why did I give up about this move. Probably I saw something like this and I didn't like this endgame because, well, he can now come closer, and well, it's not very clear endgame. I mean, everything is about this pawn. I don't have majority here, so probably I didn't like this. So instead, in this position, I played king to f3. So I wanted to maybe to go this way and then to penetrate the position, something like this. He played rook to king to d8, now attacking my rook, and I saw this move before, that he can do this, but I wasn't afraid because of the next move. So knight c6 check, and now he has just to go back, because after I play knight to c6, I'm defending my rook. These squares are all taken, so he has to go back. And now I played rook takes a7 with the idea of check and then exchanging this rook. And now when I showed you before, if I went for knight takes g6, I will still exchange rooks, but I would not have a pawn majority. I would just have this isolated pawn, which could be tricky to maintain. But now, if we exchange rooks, then I have pawn majority here, and I have this threat. So this is the principle of two weaknesses in the endgame. So if this kind of endgames in which you have play on the both wings, you have to have two weaknesses, and then your opponent cannot handle both of the weaknesses. So after this exchange, after I won this pawn, I can now exchange rooks, because now I will have he will have two weaknesses, two things to defend. One is the promotion of this pawn, and the second is, well, I can very easily create pass pawn here. So he'll have two pass pawns to deal with simultaneously, and he'll not be able to do this. And also this g6 pawn is not a threat, because it can be very easily stopped. I have my king here, my knight can join in stopping this pawn, and well, this pawn is only one way of promoting, so this pawn is very is much more dangerous. So this was the idea. So when he played a knight to d7, I checked, he moved his king, and now I took the rook, he took back, and I played knight to e5. And now this is the principle of two weaknesses. So now I will just push my candidate pawn. So a candidate pawn is the pawn who is a candidate to become a passed pawn. So this is always the pawn which doesn't have the opponent in front of himself. So I will push the candidate pawn. I will create passed pawn here. I have this weakness, and if he jumps to save his queen side, then I can just push the pawn. If he decides to stay here, I'll just push this pawn. So two weaknesses. Okay, rook to d6. Now he wants to control this pawn with the king. King to e4. So I'm now bringing my king up, and you saw that he also attacked my knight. A knight to e6, and now, okay, this side of the board is stabilized. I mean, this is covered. He cannot capture. This knight cannot move, because if this knight moves twice anywhere, I will just promote. So this knight cannot be moved. This king cannot be moved, because if king moves, I can. In fact, it can move, but it cannot do anything. So I now started my my pawn breaks on the other side of the board. He played g5. Now he wants to, well, to get some counterplay with this pawn, but I'm not worried about this pawn, because I can let this pawn go all the way here, and then just stop it by playing knight to f3. So I don't have to worry about this pawn. This pawn can be stoppable. So b4 here, I'm now just creating passed pawn. C takes b4, c takes b4. He played g4, so he wants to make some threats of his own, and I play a5. So again, pushing the candidate pawn. And now if he takes, I can take, and he cannot stop my pawn from promoting. I mean, he could with his knight, but when his knight leaves this square, I will promote this pawn. So this is the problem. This knight cannot join here, because I will just promote. He played g3, so he was hoping to get something here, and now I played h6, and you can see now there is no way to stop. Even if this pawn was not here, he cannot stop me, because this pawn is preventing his knight maneuvers. So he played g2, and now, like I said, when the pawn comes to g2, I can just play knight to f3, and now I'm covering the promotion square. Knight takes f7 now, because yeah, now my knight no longer defends f7, but this doesn't matter anymore. a7, you can see that now it's game over. Knight to g6, he is still hoping that I will blunder somehow. a8, promoting. Now I have the queen, and his last resource was knight to h4, hoping that maybe I will grab this knight, and then he can promote the queen. So I mean, this is a good way. I'm not mocking my opponent. This is a good way of playing. So if you can just choose between several moves, you want to choose the move in which you give your opponent a chance to make a mistake. So in the longer game, yeah, knight h4, well, nobody will take the knight in the longer game. But if this was a blitz or bullet, or if it was a very tight time control, then this kind of moves makes sense. I mean, why not give me a chance to blunder and to ruin the game if possible? But okay, I didn't do this. I played just a knight to g1. Now this pawn is stopped forever, and I can just continue playing with my queen and deliver checkmate in several moves. And at this point, my opponent resigned the game. Okay, this was the game. Like I said, it was a very long, very exhausting game. More than 2 hours, I think 2 hours and 20 minutes total. Although I didn't use all of my time, so I'm still playing a little bit quick. It's probably due to the fact that, well, okay, I regularly play rapid, but I played 30 plus 30. I played 2 or 3 seasons Lone Wolf 30 plus 30. So I'm not used to playing 45 plus 45, so maybe I should have used more of my time. And he used his time pretty well. I mean, you have 45 seconds increments, so when it comes to forcing moves, you get to pump up your time. Okay, so I hope you find this game interesting. I do. I think there are some very good instructive moments. I mean, the whole game is practically an end game, so it can be studied as such. And I think also this kind of this idea of principle of two weaknesses and how to create pawn majority on the one side, and then thinking forward that this pawn majority will one day become passed pawn, and this passed pawn will become something which your opponent has to defend. And if you have some other threat, then there are these two weaknesses or two threats. And okay, I think this is all very instructive if you study this kind of things. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked the video, like I said, and if you did, click the like button, leave the comment below, subscribe to my channel if you didn't, share the video, and see you very soon with more chess. Cheers.